Welcome to the Movers Resource Guide podcast, connecting you to the resources you need to create success. We chat with the best vendors, associations, mentors, movers, and more, giving you the information you need to make your moving company the best it can be. I'm your host, Brian Hassan, CEO of Wayfinder Moving in Buffalo, New York, Apex Moving in Lakewood, Washington, and the president of the New York State Movers and Warehousemen's Association. Today we have two guests. Justin Hart of Just in Time Moving, also the president of the Arizona Movers and Storage Association, as well as Steve Weitekamp, president of the California Moving and Storage Association. In this podcast, we just want to let everybody know, what the state associations are all about, why it's important to be a part of them, the relationships you can gain from them, why it's important to you, and why it's important to the industry. So we have two moving company owners and presidents of associations with myself and Justin, and a former moving company owner and president of the California Association and Steve. And, we have a good conversation about what the state associations are about. I hope everybody enjoys it. Hopefully you can take something away from it, and hopefully you go join your state association if you're not already a part of it. So hope you enjoy this conversation. Steve and Justin, welcome to the Movers Resource Guide podcast. Glad to have you here. How are you guys doing today?
Doing wonderful. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I wanted to bring you guys on. Obviously I'm the president of the New York State Movers Association. Justin, we've talked. You're the president of the Arizona. Steve, you run the California Movers Association. And I think that the state associations are super important. I think it's important to be involved in them. I think they have a lot to offer. I think they're really important for people to be involved with. So I wanted to give some visibility to all the great things that the state associations have to offer. So I wanted to bring you guys on and have the conversation and convince other people out there who may not be involved in their state associations that maybe they want to reconsider that. So one of the things we wanted to talk about today is what do you get out of it? What's in it for you to be a part of your state association? And maybe Steve, if you want to kick it off for us.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I started in this business in 1979 as a mover. And by 1985, I had transitioned into sales. And at that point, I became aware of the California Moving and Storage Association and started attending meetings and got a lot of value out of that right from the get-go. Almost immediately found mentors and partners and people that I could engage with on different projects. And it was extremely valuable to me. I quickly got involved in the chapter leadership. We have 12 chapters in California, and then was elected to the board of directors in 91 and served on the board of directors until 2005. At some point in there, I was chairman of the board. And in 2006, I took over full-time as the president of our trade association. We have an office of about 3 people. So for me personally, it was a lot about growth in the industry, about networking, about finding mentors. And I think that's a lot of it for a lot of people, regardless of whether they get engaged in leadership. It's just a great opportunity for them to find partners around the state that can help them with projects, to make friends, and to find people that have been through it before that can mentor them either on just an individual issue or just generally on their career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's all of those things, right? And you've been around the industry for quite a while, and so you've seen a lot of that and made a lot of those friends. And some of the best things we learn in this industry is from the people around us who've been through it. So I think that's really a great point. I want to give Justin a chance too here. So, in your head, so Justin, for those of you who don't know, you reached out to some movers in your area and actually started the Arizona Movers Association. And so you must have some compelling reasons of why you felt it was important to go through the effort of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I started my moving company back in 2005. I had never worked in the moving industry before. And so there are a lot of things that I did wrong along the way. Even with, I did know a couple of other movers here in the state that I would talk with, and we would throw things back and forth at each other over the years, and they'd help, movers that have been established. I kind of use them as mentors in a way, unofficially, to kind of help us through some things. But as time went on, there just seemed to be a lot of reasons to start getting the movers in Arizona together. It really solidified during COVID when we were working together just to get PPE and just resources for each other. So that's when the association really got going. But basically, the reasons why: we have hundreds of movers here in the state, very low barrier to entry. A lot of movers do things the wrong way, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. And there's really no good resource for moving companies. At least there wasn't until, hopefully, that's what ASMA or AZMA is providing now. I call it ASMA. That's a pretty appropriate name for a mover.
I love
I'm
it.
struggling to breathe most of the time here in Arizona, but basically, so this was a way for us to kind of get the good companies together that all do things ethically and the right way, network, and really get together that way, and just grow our industry here through that. And so that's what we've done. And so it's been great for us. We're up to, I don't know, over 50 members now, or close to it. And so
It's incredible.
we're very young, very inexperienced, but we even rely on other state associations, such as Steve in California, and others, to help us set up our association. And they've been very welcoming with that for us. So it's been great. We've got good momentum, and we'll do more into that for sure. So.
Yeah, no, and that's I'm a guy who always likes to learn. I always want to learn how we're doing what we're doing better. And so, anytime that you can get in a room with other movers who've been through the crap before, have things that you can learn from them, is helpful. And a lot of times, it's interesting when you go to an industry event, whether it's a state level or national level, and you get in the room with somebody else, and maybe you're commiserating about a problem or picking their brain about something that you're struggling with. And, they're like, well, hey, I deal with that this way. And all of a sudden, that conversation paid for your trip because whatever they told you, you learned or did something that saved you the money. Justin, I think we're with a different group, but these types of conversations have happened within my meetings at a state association where it's like, hey man, my box prices are just crazy right now. What are you paying? Who do you work with? Whatever. And, all of a sudden you stumble on, hey, maybe they're paying a little bit less, or they have this other supplier that has more competitive pricing. And yeah, maybe it's only a few cents a box, but by the time you get to the end of the year, you're saving a few $1,000s, and that paid for that meeting or that trip. There's so many benefits
I can relate to that. Sorry to jump in, but
No.
I was never a huge association guy. For many years, I kind of just stayed in my own lane, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't really, besides the few movers that I networked with, didn't really concern myself with anybody else. And I became a member of AMSA before it became part of ATA years ago. And at my first conference, met a few movers from other states, had a few conversations, and thanks to them, installed a best practice that resulted in $250,000 a year in additional revenue to our business that I never would have done had I not networked with them, right, or met them. So that is when it kind of, the light bulb went off for me that, okay, even though we're competitors and we all do the same thing, we all do things way differently, and we have a lot of best practices to share with each other. And so we wanted to bring that to our state and to our local movers here, and that's what we've worked to do. So yeah, there's huge benefit there that's hard to really describe until you're in it. But having those conversations, it just really helps. It's I don't know, it's immeasurable sometimes where things go and what comes of it. So.
Yeah, and those relationships, Steve, I'm sure you have some very close friends and relationships with people that you've known all these years that have really helped you and benefited you along the way. I might be skipping ahead a little bit here, but I'm sure from when you were running your company, there was connections and things that you made at that time that really boosted your business.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have connections around the world from our industry, and as I mentioned to you, my business prior to getting involved with the association was a kind of a high end residential concierge type mover, which would do full service for celebrities and wealthy individuals around the country and around the world, and we just had a great
Yeah.
network of companies that we knew from both our California Moving and Storage Association and our AMSA membership and our IM membership, that just the International Association of Movers, which just helped us all around. And we had confidence in the quality and the ethics of the people that we engaged with. And it just was so far superior than just trying to network with people electronically.
Yeah, yeah. No, you get in a room and a lot of great things tend to happen at a lot of these conferences and meetings. So maybe to take the next step in this progression here, why do you think it's important for the industry that people, and I have my own perspective on this that I'll give, but why do you think it's important for the industry to get together and make sure that the people in the state are involved in their state association?
So I'll start with a couple of
Um,
things. I just recently spoke to the Michigan movers, and I ended my presentation by saying the value of an association in the sales process is that you are engaging with people that are vetted, that have uh, care about improving the quality of what they do, and also are involved with something bigger than just themselves, which shows a real care for industry and consumers. And I would tell you that the other point is I think that we need a voice, that the only way that our industry can have an effective voice in regulation, in legislation, in public
Yeah,
relations is as an association. When we do it independently, and you can pick the biggest mover in the country, when they independently go into a congressional office, that is looked at with the perspective, oh, they're concerned about their own issue, their own company problem. Whereas when an association goes
yeah,
in, they say, well, they represent 550 companies. They're giving a much broader perspective. And I think that that adds value
yeah,
to that. I mean, I was brought in a number of years ago as the voice of the agent for the military movement. So I was involved in PPFs and hot washes and private discussions with military all the way up until the GHC came along. And we finally gave voice to the not what the military would say the boots at the curb, but those boots at the curb are no good without an agent network to support their work. And so we gave voice to those agents and those movers. And I think association
yeah.
is the only thing that can
No, I
do
think
that.
that's extremely important. Yeah, absolutely. Justin, you have anything to say on that?
yeah, no, I mean, and it really comes down to, it's funny that you said that because a voice is something I wrote in my notes is in all caps, right? Like that's something I've witnessed through attending the California Movers Association and watching Steve operate. That's really what they bring to the table for their members as a voice. But it all comes down to education and who you're educating. So for me, like in your case, Steve, that's educating legislators. We try to educate the movers that are in our group and best practices and how they can get better and bring legitimacy to a rough industry. Let's not kid ourselves. Moving is not the most glamorous industries to be in, and it's very easy to do things the wrong way. And then education it also goes to the end user, to the mover, to the shipper, to the client, right? Like we want them to use our association as a source for finding a mover, or when things don't go right, have the backing of the association by a association member to lean on. So a voice is definitely huge. And to add on to that, it's the education that goes along with that. So, and not any of us knows everything. I've learned that, we have our meetings every so often, and you'll have a mover that maybe has one truck in the room, and you'll have a van line that does $50 million a year in revenue. Doesn't really matter. Huge movers, and we're all learning from each other.
Yeah,
That was one of my concerns when I first started was what is the interest of a larger company maybe joining the association, I've learned from those owners here, whether it's a larger independent or not, that they learn a lot from the smaller independents who see things in a different way that they normally wouldn't talk to if they weren't in this association together. Typically, I mean, this kind of puts them in the same room. So for me, I think, industry wide, it's education on all fronts. And so if you're interested in learning and bettering yourself, that's the big value that I take from it.
Yeah, definitely. And we do education on a couple of different venues. We have seminars, we have regular emails, we do newsletters, and we have conventions. So we do a lot of Zoom calls, different things to try and make sure that we get that message across. Education is vital. That's a great point, Justin.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think that it's if you're a legitimate mover, we all get frustrated by the movers who are giving us a bad reputation and who aren't doing things right. So if you're one of the movers that is trying to do things right, you want the movers that are the bad actors in the industry to be policed. And if there's not an association there, most states do not have the resources to police the industry and protect people themselves. They may want to, but they just don't have the resources to. So a lot of times the industries, especially in New York, we have to police the moving industry ourselves. And if we don't, we as an industry get a black eye, and we're also forced then to compete against people who are not doing things the right way. And so, as banding together as an industry, one of the great things that New York State just recently did is, there's a lot of movers who are rogue and taking advantage of customers and doing business the wrong way. And the DOT slaps a fine on them, and then the next day they're in a different truck doing something different. What we've finally, after 10 years of fighting, been able to do is turn moving illegally from a civil penalty to a criminal penalty. So now the Attorney General in New York State can go after those really bad actors in the industry and can literally throw them in jail and have some real weight to shut them down. And these aren't the guys who just made a mistake or did something wrong one time. These are the continual bad actors. And that really helps keep the reputation of our industry better and allows us to go after the ones that are hurting our reputation or that we're competing against in an unfair way. And so without the industry banding together, regulations that protect the moving companies can't get into place.
Good point.
And that's the selfless. I mean, there's a self benefit to your moving company with that, but you're out there fighting selflessly for your industry in that. And I think that that's important, and it helps keep your industry healthy and clean,
Yep.
And our members bring us issues too. So we have a lot of times that our members will bring us an issue, and then we'll advocate for the greater industry. I had a mover in the northern part of California by Highway 1 that was getting red tagged for going on the road between San Francisco and the state line. And so we had to negotiate with the Highway Patrol and Department of Transportation for the greater industry to do a workaround to get some access to those roads under certain conditions. And we were successful. So it benefited that one member dramatically, but benefited the industry, not only in California, but around the country that needed to make deliveries to the upper part of Northern California.
Yeah. And one moving company crying about it isn't going to get a result, like you said before. But if we come as an association and represent that in a respectful, positive manner, and it's easier to get things done and helps us protect ourselves as moving companies and helps us protect consumers and make sure everybody's doing things the right way. So absolutely a ton of benefits there. And I think we could probably go on and on for this for a while. But we all probably have a lot to say. So, but we're approaching the middle part of the podcast here, and I want to leave enough room because since we have a couple of people on today, we can have a couple of funny stories. So, why don't I let you kick this one off, Justin? Then we'll head over to Steve. But what's your entertaining moving story you have for us?
Wonderful. Yeah, I should have more, but this one really sticks in my head as I was thinking about what to share today with this. So, we as movers, we've all probably had, a vibrating box that we've moved at times, right?
Yeah.
Maybe with someone's personal items in it. Well, this was a move maybe 10 years ago we did. It was just adult lady whose mom was handling the move for her. She was at work, so the mom came to kind of be there for the day of the move, just an apartment move. And we moved everything out, and under the bed was an adult toy, basically. And so the daughter was not there. Our guys just kind of left it under the bed and moved the bed out. So it was just kind of sitting there on the floor. Well, the mom did a final walkthrough, and she came down the stairs holding it and said, "Hey, I think you guys left your flashlight upstairs in the bedroom." And our movers were like, "Oh no, that's not our flashlight." She's like, "Well, I'm just going to leave it here on the counter then. I don't know who it belongs to." And the mom had no idea what this was, apparently, and just kind of left it there on the counter. So I'm still wondering to this day what happened to that. But I'm sure once the daughter found out, she was probably mortified.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a
that's just the mom being oblivious and coming down with it. Just that's great.
Interesting.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Justin. That was a good one.
Absolutely.
All right, what do you got for us, Steve?
So mine may sound a little bit like a name dropper one because I did a lot of high-end celebrity and wealthy people work. But one day I got a call from a personal assistant that used to be Steven Spielberg's assistant, and I did all their work. And she said, "Hey, I got this new client, Reese Witherspoon." This was 1999. I didn't even really know who she was. It says, "We need you to come out here and handle a move." So I went out into Bel Air to this house in Stone Canyon, and I usually like to go pretty quick and the more time you spend in a house, the more you can talk yourself out of a sale. So I just like to do it relatively quickly. And so I started to go through to look at things. They said, no, we need you to come sit down in the dining room. There was about 4 or 5 people sitting there in suits with briefcases, and I walked over and sat down, and a guy pushed over a piece of paper to me and says, "Before we start, we need you to sign this." And I said, "Well, what is it?" He says, "Well, it's a non-disclosure agreement." And I'm like, and this was before that was very common. People do them now for the most ridiculous things in the world. And I have my own opinions about it. But I said, "No, I'm not signing that." And they're like, "No, you need to sign this." I said, "Well, I'm not signing it." And he says, "Well, then we're not going to use you." I said, "Okay, fine. Thank you very much." And as I get up to leave, the assistants are like, whoa, wait a minute. This guy is the guy we want to do the job. We're going to work around this. And so he put it away. And then they said, "Okay, our client is Reese Witherspoon." And I'm like, "Okay, whoever that is." And she needs to move because the paparazzi are really after her. The paparazzi will not leave her alone. She's about to have a baby, and they want to get that first picture of the baby. So she's insisting on moving right away. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to come into the house here in Bel Air, pack it all up, load it onto your trucks, take it back to your warehouse, and then we'll have another company come and pick it up, and they'll deliver it to the new house and unpack it. And I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that." And they're like, "What?" I said, "There's a chain of custody issue. I'm not releasing this. If I do the job, I do it from start to finish." And they're like, "Why are you so difficult?" I said, "Well, I'm just telling you the truth, that I'm not going to get involved in something where another moving company is going to say, 'You broke it,' and I'm going to say they broke it. So let's not go forward." And then they said, "Well, what the hell? What's your proposition? What can you do to protect us from these paparazzi finding out where she's moving to?" I said, "Well, I've got 12 straight trucks painted the same color, look exactly the same to almost anybody other than me. And what I would suggest is I'm going to run them all to you. I'm going to run trucks, not load them, send them out to the valley, send them 20 miles in the wrong direction, and then I'm going to load trucks and take them back to a remote warehouse and hold them a couple of days." So we'll do kind of like a find the ball under the cups with 12 trucks coming and going. Some are loading behind the gate, some are not loading. And so we did it, and we saw some paparazzi chase some trucks, 30 miles out of the way where they didn't have anything on them. And we eventually got them all over to our remote warehouse. And as this was 1999, my crews didn't have cell phones yet. And so we gave them some walkie-talkies, and 2 days later, we went to go deliver. And so we left at 6 a.m. and kind of went over the freeway overpass. If you know Los Angeles at all, the valley is separated over the 405. There's a big hump at the top. And I was there in my car and saying, go, go, go. And as cars went by, I would kind of check and see if it looked like someone suspicious was following them. We pulled into the gates in Palisades and started unloading. Things were going well. A couple hours are going strong. Reese and her husband at the time, Ryan Felipe, I believe I pronounce his name, we're in the house. And all of a sudden, I'm in the house, and all of a sudden we hear this whop, 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 whop of a helicopter overhead. And so we go running outside, and here's a guy with one of these gigantic telephotic lenses hanging out of the helicopter, taking pictures down of the house. And there was a picture in the National Enquirer of Ryan Felipe looking up, giving the finger to the photographer, and I'm standing next to him, just looking completely dejected. And so that was how that went. And then so for the next couple hours while we were unloading, I just kind of stayed out of their line of sight, figuring they're just going to chew into me, which they never did. And they remained good clients for a long time. And it was none of our doing that caused that to happen. There was a lot of other parties involved. And so that's how that was a kind of a case where the paparazzi,
all that effort to just be like, and then they show up in the helicopter and you're just like,
you got to try. That's all I say. You just got to try.
Wow. That's an impressive amount of work for a move too, it was to do all that. That's crazy.
Yeah. To coordinate all that is difficult. Definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys entertaining us there for a little bit. Both stories great there. Thank you, Steve. So to kind of finish this off, we've talked about this a little bit. The three of us here, we've been very involved in our state association, so we know that there's a lot to gain. And we've talked about the importance, but one of the things that I think that makes this industry great are the relationships that you can build with people. And, since I've gotten involved with the New York State Movers Association, met a lot of great people, but have a couple of particular friends that I'm very close with and work very closely with through the state. And that have been, really helpful and cheerleaders for me, and kind of a board of directors for me. And, we help each other out, and it's really nice to have somebody else that, hey, they're driving home from work and they pick up and call you just to see how you're doing and see if you need any help with anything, or to talk through an issue that they're having. It's nice to have somebody on your side that knows what you're going through, can understand what your issues are. And I think some of the greatest parts of getting involved in the association is to no longer, or anything with any of these moving groups, is to no longer be on an island and have somebody to kind of go through it with. And go ahead, Justin.
Yeah. I mean, I think I might have mentioned this to Steve last time we talked, but I've had a member here who we do a meeting quarterly, right? And we kind of rotate at different movers facilities, or we'll go to an associate member's facility and have the meeting there. But every time we get together, I'm always worried about we're going to have enough to talk about, what's going on, kind of make sure we have a good agenda. And we end up running out of time, typically, like going over and having such great conversation. One of the movers came up to me afterwards, who owns a pretty large independent company here in the Valley. And he's all, I love these meetings. He's like, it's almost like therapy for me, just to be able to have the camaraderie and commiserate and just kind of talk about what's going on with us and hear the struggles that we're all having. So, and find ways to get through them, small or large. So I enjoyed that, knowing that it's just, and that goes back to the networking and the relationships, but the fact that you feel like you're able to kind of relate to everyone that's in that room. And they've all, even a lot of the associate members have been movers in the past or been in the moving industry. So they know, what we deal with and how things go. So yeah, it's been incredible from just that dynamic that I did not expect. At first, I was very much worried about very tangible things like, what actual concrete value are we bringing to our members? Like, is this member going to give a discount to Movers Association members or whatever? But it's so much the intangible things that really help out. So
Absolutely. Steve?
I'd say, we're in a very unique position. So we have 12 active chapters around the state of our members that get together regularly and have meetings and do fundraisers. And we raise at least $85,000 a year, which we give away in scholarships
Wow.
to people within our own association and their children and grandchildren, and charities. So we have 2 charities every year, and we give them each $5,000, and we give $51,000 in scholarships every year. Since we started, we've given away over $1.35 million in scholarships to young people in our own association, which is greater than any national or international association or group within our industry. So we're very proud of that. And that solidifies a lot of relationships within your company and within your industry. So there's nothing better than putting money into the pocket of one of your employees for the benefit of their children. So, that solidifies relationships. But personally, I'm involved in personal relationships with people from my first day to right now. I'm meeting new friends even now, and I've gone to I don't know how many hundred meetings, and I've always walked away with something new, be it just from a personal conversation, from content, just how people accept information. There's just a lot of different ways of relating to those engagements. And I think they're real special. And anyone who isn't taking advantage of that is leaving a lot on the table, both personally and in their business.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree with that. So, well, I think we could keep going here, gentlemen, but we're kind of up against our time here. We want to make sure that we keep this easily consumable for people. So, Steve, if somebody from California is listening to this and they're like, hey, maybe I do want to go to a meeting with the California Movers Association, how would they reach out to you?
So my door's open both figuratively and literally. I would say that come to our website, thecmsa.org. We have a calendar of events that's easily accessible. My email's there. All of that is easily and readily available. You can look us up. You can call us. I have permanent staff that's in the office, and we're happy to help anybody. We have 550 member companies, and that's movers mostly in California, but movers around the country that engage with movers in California, large industry groups, and all the packing materials, lawyers, forms people, all of those people. The benefits outweigh the costs. And as we always say, you get a lot more out of it than you put into it.
Yeah, that's absolutely for sure. So Justin, so you have a new association, really. If somebody in Arizona is listening to this and they want to get involved in and get some asthma in their life, how do they go about doing that?
Kind of the same thing. Our website's the best place to go, moversaz.org. So moversaz.org. Very easy to navigate the site, see who the current members are. And whether you're a mover or someone who works with movers, we are also looking for good associate members, vendors that want to come in and be put in front of the best moving companies in our state, can offer value to our companies and really work with a lot of quality businesses that are needing good suppliers, right? So that's something that we're looking for, whether you're a mover or an associate member or supplier. We're interested in having you as part of what we're doing here. And we have great momentum going forward, and looking forward to the years ahead for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. And I'll speak on behalf of New York State. If there's somebody from New York State that's listening to this and saying, hey, when's the next meeting? Can I get involved? Where's the information I can find? For New York State, it's NewYorkStateMovers.com. If anybody is curious or interested, feel free to send me an email, Brian, Brian, at wayfindermoving.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We have a great association. Probably one of the best things about the New York State Association is our workers' comp safety group. If you have to be a part of the association to get into the safety group, and the rates are, 30% discount off the state rates, and then last year we had a 32.5% dividend on top of that. So if you're in New York State and you want better workers' comp rates, come join the association. We can hook you up. So a little commercial there for New York State. Hey, listen, really appreciate you guys coming to do this. I know you have a lot going on. I think it's an important topic, and really appreciate you taking the time to let people know why it's important to be a part of their state association. So had fun with the conversation. Really glad you guys could join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Hey, we want to thank everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with two really great representatives of the moving industry. Had a lot of fun talking to them. A little bit different podcast for us this time, a little different conversation direction, but really think that all associations in the moving industry, especially the state ones, are really important to be a part of and really give back a lot to this industry. So we wanted to give a voice to those state associations. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Really thanks Steve and Justin for coming on. I know they're both busy guys, so we appreciate them taking the time. And hey, if you're listening to this on YouTube and you're enjoying it, just want to continue to let you know that there are other options out there. If you'd rather listen to it in podcast format without the video, we are out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. Go ahead and try those other routes if that works better for you. Really appreciate everybody. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or ideas for future episodes, send us an email, moversresourceguide@gmail.com, and we'll get right back to you and take those ideas in. Other than that, hey, it's time to get moving.